Okay, guys, so we're here in the shop right now. Yeswelder was really nice to send me their Flux-135Pro welding machine, and it actually comes with a gooseneck for the flux core, comes with the ground cable, and comes with a shielded metal arc welding stinger as well. So if you check it out, it's actually a pretty cool little machine. It has a full setup just like our full-size machine. We're fixing to turn it on here in just a second and give it a run, see how well it runs. I've never used a little machine like this. I've used one for TIG, but never for flux core or for stick, so we're going to give it a try real fast. Okay, so right now I've actually got it setting up on one of our Lincolns, and we're just going to piggyback off of it since it's a 110, and let's switch it on. Let that fan kick on. So it's actually a pretty cool little setup. And, you know, normally most machines have 2 dials instead of just one. But this one actually has just one. So we're going to send it over to stick. And this actually goes up to 135 amps, which is surprising. A lot of these machines only get up to like 90 amps. So we're going to turn it down and we're going to run stick. And I'm going to actually set it up to about 85, 90, somewhere in there. Let's run it about 90. And right now I have my stinger set up on the positive, so we're going to be doing direct. Now, if you wanted to do reverse polarity, or if you wanted to work on thinner material, all you'd actually do is actually switch the positive and put it on the negative and the negative on the positive if you wanted to run thinner material. So this is where I usually run 60-10 and 60-11, so let's give it a try, see what it does. Okay, so normally I would actually do 3 tests. I do a 70-18 1/8 rod, a 60-10 1/8 rod, and a 60-11 1/8 rod. But I'm just going to jump straight to a 70-18 rod because it requires it to have at least 110 amps to run it. So we're just going to jump straight into it and see if this machine can actually run it. Okay, so machine died. But let's see what type of penetration it has. So from what I'm seeing, we actually had penetration. It started off good. So if you see, we had good penetration. It came out to a good weld, but 110 is not really recommended for a 1/8 rod like this. So if we had it like a 3/32 inch rod, I think it'd do a lot better. So I'm gonna get a converter or an adapter for 110 to 220. I think that would actually be a lot better for it. But the weld itself is actually solid right until the time it stopped. So as you can see, we were getting penetration, and the weld was coming out great. But because we're running a 70-18 1/8 rod, 110 amps isn't really suitable for this type of welding. So we really need an adapter to go from 110 to 220. So I'm going to get that first before we actually attempt the 1/8 rod. Now, a 3/32 rod would run amazing with this machine, but because we're running a 1/8 rod, it's just not going to happen. We're just going to have to do these little bitty welds, basically stitch welds from here, 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 and here. So I'm going to get the adapter for 110 to 220, and then we'll be able to do a better video and see what happens. So with that being said, it's kind of hard to have a conclusive thought about this machine right now, just because the machine did die. It turned itself off whenever I was getting started on the 1/8 rod. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad machine. I'm not saying that at all. Most hobbyists not professional welders. Most hobbyists use 3/32 inch rods. So that's the diameter of the rod, okay? In the professional world, we use 1/8 rods. So with that being said, I'm gonna get the inverter or the adapter for 110 to 220. And we'll just go from there. I'm not giving up on this little machine, though. I think it has potential. And from what I've seen on other videos, they've had really good success, but I think they were running the 220 and not the 110. So as 110 with a 1/8 rod, I don't recommend it. So let's get the adapter and we'll go from there. So that's what I got for right now. But I am going to recommend this welder, though, just because it is a good little welder. It's a great value. These little machines through like Lincoln and Miller, if you were to get one at this size with all this stuff, you're looking, $1,000 and up. But most of the time, you're not going to run 110. You're going to want to run 220 because you want to have a lot of volts and amps coming in just to get good polarity. So that's something to think about as well. So let's get that adapter and see what happens from there. So until then, see you next time.